Hello，你好，Welcome back，欢迎回来to Wisdom Wednesday with Johnny Tiger on Wednesday, November 17, 2021. Growing up, I tend to have this idea that I was led to believe that dog is good and cat is bad. I was led to believe that Chinese people don't like cats. A cat is bad for in Chinese culture, in Chinese tradition. Now, why is that? Why do Chinese people feel, or some of them feel, that dogs are good and cats are bad? Well, there are a few major reasons behind that belief. Although, after today's video, you will know that this belief is not uh, the entire Chinese culture. Traditionally, Chinese people did not think of cat as a bad thing. So this whole idea of dog is good and cat is bad is really quite recent. It's not part of our tradition. This is what you can say the more 70s, 60s, maybe 50s uh, kind of a newer philosophy around what pet is good for you. But first, let's have a little bit of practical information. I don't know how many of you have tried to keep a dog and a cat as pets at the same time, and maybe you would have wondered why is it that when a cat meet a dog, they usually end up fighting. Not all the time, not all the time, but usually, I would say 95% of the time, when you introduce a cat to a dog, within a few minutes they are fighting. Why is that? Well, just a personal theory of mine. I think it's because they don't speak a common language. Uh, if anything, their language seems to be the exact opposite of what each other understand. For example, uh, when a dog want to get friendly with you, he's going to start making low, kind of whiny noises, and then the tail's going crazy, uh, and it's going to get close to you. Now, that is in cat's language, in cattish, that is a sign of aggression, especially the tail going crazy and the uh, little whiny noise in the mouth. That is the cat telling you, keep away. So the dog's idea of hello is the cat's idea of go away. Now let's look at a cat. A cat, when they want to say hello to you, when they say, hey, want to be friend, they arch their back, they make the little rumbling noises in their chest, and they kind of half close their eyes. Their eyes go kind of hooded. That's when the cat want to show you, hey, let's be friends. Pet me, pet me. Again, when it comes to dog, when it comes to dog's language, that is the sign of aggression. Rumbling noise in the chest, arched back, hooded eyes. Yeah, don't touch that dog. It's going to bite the heck out of you. So how can those two creatures ever get along when one creature's hello is the other creature's sign, idea of attack? Let's go to war. Maybe from this little theory, those little examples, we can come to realize that a lot of time when human beings go to war with each other or fight each other, get into arguments, get into conflict, maybe that's all it is. Maybe we just simply not understanding each other. Maybe the other person's hello is sound like something else to our ear. And this is very true in some cultures. Some culture, like I mentioned this before, big culture shock for Chinese people when uh, you get greeted by your white friend or a black friend, and they come up to you and they say something derogatory about your mom or call you a bad name. Uh, in Western culture, that is okay. In Chinese culture, that is not okay. In Chinese, it doesn't matter how good a friend you are, you don't you don't do that rude greeting with each other, especially when it involves each other's family or mother. That's just a no-no. Uh, as on the other hand, in Chinese culture, a lot of people when they see you, they'll say, "Hey, you look good. You look fat." That is perfectly okay in Chinese greeting. Telling someone they look fat is telling them they look rich, they look well fed, they look good, healthy. You try that in the Western culture and see how many people is going to get mad at you. So I think just like between the cat and dog, we human beings can really take a lesson in backing off the trigger, maybe, and try to get along and try to understand before we start taking each other uh, to war or trying to start a conflict. Now, if you say, "Oh, but I really would like a dog and a cat," how is there a way for me to get them to coexist? Yes, there is. And today's Wisdom Wednesday, I'm going to throw this in as a little bonus. If you really want a cat and a dog at the same time, there's two ways of letting them get along and live in the same household without constant problem. One, you need to get them both at a very young age. You get a kitten and a puppy, both 2 or 3 months old, and get them to live together, eat together, and once they grow up, they'll understand each other, no problem. That friendship built from youth will overcome any kind of adverse natural instinct. So that is one way to do it. Now, if you have to get an adult cat and an adult dog, then you need to learn to ignore their first few fights. Um, Let me tell you that a lot of people wonder how come uh, Aslan, our new kitten, and Tiger, my old kitty cat, Aslan and Tiger, they fight all the time, but I do not intervene. I don't even get bothered by it. Uh, Because you need to leave them to sort things out themselves. You can't jump out of your chair every single time they start fighting and try to separate them. You'll just add more needless stress to an already stressful situation. As long as they are not really killing each other, as long as no one's losing an eye or an ear, as long as there's no blood spilling over the floor, just let them be. Just let them uh, at it. They will sort each other out, and they will come to an understanding eventually, and sort out the packing order. For example, Tiger and Aslan they'll fight every day, but there's never any blood. There's hardly ever any injury at all. They just make a lot of noise. But when it comes to eating and sleeping, quite often you'll see them eat together, sleep together. So all those loud squawks and yowls, they're just for show. They're just like a couple of rowdy teenagers. If you have a dog and a cat, and you want them to get along, then you got to leave them alone. You got to let them fight it out, get it out of their system, and let them establish their social order. Eventually, either the cat will learn to respect the dog, or the dog will learn to respect the cat. As long as there's no serious damage, don't get involved. Leave them alone. Now, let's go back and talk about cat. As many of you know, I am a definite cat person. I mean, I'm Johnny Tiger. Of course, I'm a cat person. Uh, Kitten would like to hear that, of course. Now, I have not always been a cat person. No. I grew up as a dog person and really didn't like cats because I had this idea that cats was evil, bad luck, and standoffish and uh, not really all that fun. And they have sharp claws and sharp teeth that can really mess you up. I mean, dogs have sharp teeth too, but cat is so quick and the claws are so sharp. I was a little bit scared of them. It wasn't until I was in my mid 20s I adopted Tiger, and I realized that cats are actually much more suited to my personality and lifestyle. They're clean, they're independent, they're fiercely, uh, uh, characteristically uh, individualized. They have very strong personality, and if you look at the makeup of a cat, their physical makeup, they're amazing creatures. How strong and fast and nimble and agile they are. I mean, as a martial artist, there's just no way for me not to appreciate what they are. Every inch of a cat is a perfectly designed natural machine of war, a natural acrobat and martial artist. So why did Chinese people in the mid 90s? Well, how come all this idea of Chinese people don't like cats? What what do they have against cats? Well, first, it's because Chinese people got it backward. You see, people believe that cat brings poverty because usually you see a lot of cats hanging out in ghettos and slums. Well, cats hang out there because there's a lot of rats and bugs, things to eat, things to kill there. It's not that cats generated that living condition, but cats were drawn to that environment. But Chinese people, being very superstitious, believe that you always see cat in those areas, so that must mean if you have a cat, your home will become infested with rats and decay and all that stuff. Uh, So they believe that dog bring wealth. Why is that? Because dogs are known to guard valuable things, guard your property, guard your house. So if you have a dog, obviously you have something worth guarding, which means you're wealthy. Right? That is kind of a really crazy, ridiculous reasoning behind it, but it got very popular in the mid 90s, early 90s when keeping pets became such a big taboo in especially communist China. Another reason why Chinese people in the previous century uh, preferred dog is because dogs are easy to feed. A lot of Chinese people were so poor that sometimes they wouldn't see meat for except like once a month or once every 3 months. The rest of the time they eat preserved vegetable and rice. Now a dog can actually grow on that. A dog will eat that. Preserved vegetable and rice, just put it all in the bowl with a little bit of broth. A dog will eat that. Cat, no. So if you want to be an owner of a cat, then it's a little bit more stressful to come up with food for it. If you don't even have money for food, for meat, you won't have money for fish. So yeah, a lot of time that cat it's not really going to stick around. You're not going, you won't be able to feed it, and the only way for that cat to survive is to go find food elsewhere, which means after a while that cat is not going to come home. So people have this idea that cats are not loyal, they're hard to feed, and that they don't come home. So dogs became a more favored pet. Also, during the chaos of the previous century, of the war with the Japanese people, and then the civil war between the communists and the Democrats, and all that stuff, and then the big cultural revolution that the Communist Party brought in to the people. People in China that were they were living in a state of constant fear, fear that your neighbor will see something you want and try to steal it from you, fear that someone passing by will see something they like and try to take it from you. So having a cat is not really useful because cats are not very good at guarding stuff. But a dog, especially a big dog, oh yeah, especially a hungry one. Don't forget, you barely have food to feed it. So a hungry, big dog, very, very effective for warding off unwanted intrusion from your neighbors and any passers-by. So dogs became more of a favored pet by Chinese people during the time of chaos. But this has not always been the case. Let's look at the word for cat to begin with. Uh, Let me show you why is it that historically Chinese people actually thought extremely highly of cats. Cat in Mandarin is Mao, Mao, Mao. If you look at the Chinese character for Mao, it is a combination of two words. It's a word quan for means to guard, to defend, and then the word meow, meaning seedling, young crop. From the combination of these two words, we can come to understand that Mao originally were viewed as a guardian of seeds and crop. China has always been a agricultural based nation. Chinese people were not so big on fishing or hunting. Chinese people were always on farming, growing rice, growing wheat, growing vegetables. Now, when you have a farm, one of the biggest problem you will run into is how do you keep rodents, pests, squirrels, mice, bugs, birds from eating the seeds that you plant, from eating the young crop before they have a chance to grow. Well, Chinese people figured out about 3,000 years ago that cats were extremely effective for keeping these things away. So, for thousands of years, Chinese people wouldn't keep cats at home. They would keep cats in the farm. So the cats would, they would build a little shed where the cats can sleep, and then the cats would prowl the field and hunt down any pest that may be trying to destroy the crop. This this went on for thousands of years. So for the first several thousand years, cats were the major, the biggest pest control uh, in China for Chinese farmers. Now, where did cats come from? Uh, most of you probably already know this. Cats was domesticated by Egyptians about 10,000 years ago, and eventually uh, got brought to China when Egyptian merchants traveled the Silk Road and brought their cats with them. Egyptian people thought that cats were guardians or keep evil spirit away. So a lot of merchants that traveled the Silk Road would carry cats with them and with their caravan to protect them from evil spirit. So some of these cats had kittens and they got left in China, and Chinese people started domesticating them for guarding the farm. It wasn't until Tang Dynasty, so about 1,000 years ago, that cat suddenly got a major boost in popularity. Uh, it started with a royal princess that fell in love with a kitten she found, and next thing you know, because one princess had a kitten, obviously all the other princesses, kings, queens, lords, and ladies suddenly wanted their own kitten, their own cat. In Tang Dynasty, cats were so valuable that they were more valuable than horses. It was said in Tang Dynasty, a single cat could worth up to 1,000 ounces of gold. That's how crazy it was, how expensive cats became and valued. One example, one fact to illustrate just how valuable cats was in Chinese culture is that when the tombs of old Chinese emperors were discovered, uh, the tombs from Qing Dynasty, from Han Dynasty, from Tang Dynasty, a lot of these tombs of emperors have traces of life sacrifices in them. The most common were horses, usually the emperor's favorite horses, favorite stallions, and then live goats and pigs and cattle, even as gruesome as it sounds, sometimes human. But there has never been a tomb that have been found with cat remain in it. Why is that? It's because cats were simply too valuable, even for the emperor to use for sacrifice. Another illustration of how valuable cats were to Chinese people is during the Han Dynasty, about 1,300, 1,400 years ago. During the Han Dynasty, uh, every year there's a massive uh, uh, holy ceremony where the emperor himself pay homage, pay respect to the gods, to the Jade Emperor, to the Buddha, to uh, whoever they believed in. And during this massive uh, ceremony, there was one segment where the emperor himself had to show appreciation for the cat god and beg the the cat god to send uh, cats to defend the farms to help crops grow really well. So the emperor himself have to pay respect to the cat god every year during the Han Dynasty. Other more minor but just as important uh, proof that cats were more valued as pets is that Chinese people have always had uh, a rule, a household rule, for thousands of years. Dogs were not allowed in the house. Dogs belong outside. They're not allowed in the house, of course, because you want them to guard the house. So how can they guard it from the inside? They have to be outside. So when bad people come, dogs can chase them away. You want them outside. So when you watch Chinese movies and read Chinese history, when people had dogs, the dogs were always outdoor. They were never inside. They weren't allowed inside. Cats, on the other hand, were allowed to come and go as they please, because cats had the sacred duty of chasing down and hunting down, killing any kind of pest they could find. And if the pests were inside, they were hunted inside. Pests were outside, they hunted outside. Incidentally, a lot of Chinese buildings big houses uh, already had their own idea of pet doors for thousands of years. A lot of these big houses, they would have a large hole, uh, large enough for a child to crawl through. That's for dogs. Or if they have cats, then they will just saw away the bottom piece of the door, so there's a little bit of a space for a cat to come and go as they please. Cat has also been used in some humorous way in Chinese language, and we'll look at some of these. Uh, for example, when someone say, uh, "You better watch out. I think there's something fishy going on here." Something fishy going on here. In Chinese, it's called uh, "mao ni." There's some "mao ni" here. What does that mean? Uh, Mao ni. Mao, we also said that's cat. Ni, this ni means dropping shit. Mao ni means cat shit. So, there's some cat. You better watch out. I think there's some cat shit here. Why do they say that? Because cats bury their dirty deeds, their dirt, their soil, their bad stuff, the dirty stuff they leave behind, their shit. So Chinese people describe evil deeds or bad intentions as cat shit, something buried that you can't see, but you better watch out. And Chinese people play poker, the largest two cards, the king and queen. They're not called king and queen in China. They're called cat and kitten. When a person is supposed to take care of some responsibility or some duty, but they just do it uh, without really putting effort in, people will say, "What the hell? What are you doing? You're like 猫盖屎." 猫盖屎 means you're like cat burying their droppings. Uh, because when you when you watch a cat, when they bury their droppings, they're not really serious about it. They just kick the sand over a few times, and okay, that's good enough, and then they walk away. So when a person is supposed to be doing something, but they don't take it seriously, they just do it casually and uh, without putting in effort. Chinese people say that's like 猫盖屎, like cat uh, burying their droppings. A lot of time when people who accuse of others of being an alcoholic and drink too much, they'll say, "Why do you drink that 猫尿?" 猫尿 uh, means cat piss. Uh, that's what they call alcohol. There are many, many other facets uh, of Chinese culture that is interlinked with cat, such as the most symbolic animal to Chinese people, the panda. Panda is called 熊猫, means bear cat. 熊猫. So much of our words and linguistic and slangs and proverbs have been linked with these graceful animals that there's no reason to say that Chinese people traditionally uh, do not like cats. Maybe some don't, but don't fool yourself. There are many, many, many Chinese people nowadays that love cat just as much as you or I. Thank you for checking out today's Wisdom Wednesday. We'll be back again tomorrow for Toys Thursday. For now, 谢谢 and 再见.